surat sih, surat ridho.
About our multilingual selves, who we are as multilingual speakers, in that we don't just use one language but we use many languages, and the different places that we use many languages in. Riha?
Riha, could you please come forward to share your work?
So this is what I draw in my paper. So what do I use language? First, mostly I use bahasa Indonesia because I am an Indonesian. I use for almost every single day when I do activity. And then secondly, I use English when I study because I am English educational major student. So I use English when I study at UMJ. And then when I use for social media, sometimes I use for caption or something chat and then something like that. And then I use when I teach my student because now I am a teacher at high school, so I use it. And then third is Arabic because I am Muslim, so I pray 5 times a day. So I use Arabic sometimes when I pray after the days. And then I use local language like Javanese and Osing. Fun fact, I communicate with my parents in local language. I use Japanese and Osing. And then the last time is I use a body language as emergency. As emergency situation, I use body language like when I don't do a homework in my study at UMJ, I use body language to my friend like cut off, you know, like something like that. And then maybe that's all, Miss and Miss Wigit. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. you, Rehan, for sharing. Thanks.
That's very good. So we can see that he is a very multilingual, has a very multilingual identity. He uses languages for different purposes and with different people. And sometimes he might mix his languages as well. We used to say that when we were teaching English, we only speak English in the classroom, but now we're saying it's okay to use different languages to help students understand and for students to gain meaning from our lessons a little bit more. So this is just a warm-up activity to get you thinking about your multilingual identities. Now we'll move on to the study about intergenerational family practices. So I went to the Indonesian early childhood curriculum and I thought, what does it say about the role of parents in early childhood? And it talks about harmony and continuity between education and care at home, so that children's growth and development can occur optimally. Maybe you can explain the second one for me.
The principle. Basically ini menceritakan tentang bagaimana role keluarga di dalam kurikulum. Jadi partnership dengan orang tua dan bagaimana ada harmoni dan kesinambungan antara pendidikan dan yang dilakukan oleh di sekolah dan orang tua. Jadi bisa pertumbuhan itu bisa optimal. Dan ini sebenarnya bukan konsep baru karena Ki Hajar Dewantara semenjak tahun 35 beliau juga sudah punya yang namanya Family Educational Unit yang ada dengan 3 center untuk menopang pendidikan. Jadi hal ini juga tertuang di peraturan pemerintah nomor 30 tahun 2017 tentang equal rights, jadi persamaan hak, terus kemudian kebersamaan, terus kemudian kasih sayang dan care for each other, dan yang paling penting itu number 4, pay attention to the best interest of the child. Ini kita perhatikan apa yang sebenarnya menjadi interest atau menjadi needs dari anak itu sendiri.
Thank you, Teresa. So we can see that it's very important that we consider parents in our early childhood education programs. It's very important that we develop partnerships with parents and find out a little bit about what's going on in the home and community for the child. What languages they're coming to early childhood education and school with. What languages are they using? Thank you. So our research questions for our study were, how are intergenerational family practices shaped by languages that families know and use? And how in turn do these family language practices shape language development through play in the home and community? So we were looking at natural environments, natural play environments, the everyday play practices of families.
Jadi, wait, hold on. Can you go back? Oh yes. Jadi riset ini ada pertanyaan yang mendasar untuk dijawab. Itu yang pertama, bagaimana intergenerational family ini terdiri dari mother, grandmother, mother, and children. Jadi ini riset ini longitudinal study. It takes quite some time ya, karena mengikut sertakan jadi neneknya, ibunya, anaknya. Nah itu kan penggunaan bahasanya berbeda. Jadi research questionnya berfokus bagaimana praktis atau misalnya praktek-praktek dari keluarga itu membentuk bagaimana bahasa itu digunakan di dalam keluarga. Pertanyaan yang kedua itu, how in turn do these family practices shape language development through play? Bagaimana dengan bermain ini bisa membentuk penggunaan bahasa itu di dalam keluarga dan masyarakat.
Okay, so to find out about this, we we used what we call a multi-methodological approach. So we collected video clips of from the families about how the children played at home. We collected photographs from the families. We conducted interviews. We interviewed the families. We went and took photographs of the family play practices, and we also went and filmed the families in their home and in the park as well. Sometimes COVID got in the way, in the middle of it, so what we thought was going to be face-to-face interviews that time became Zoom interviews.
Ya. Jadi bagaimana kita mengumpulkan data dengan menggunakan mewawancara dengan keluarga, terus kemudian mengumpulkan foto-foto dari keluarga itu, video, terus kemudian ketika mereka berinteraksi di park, di taman, itu kita melihat interaksinya dan kita juga mengambil fotograf ketika mereka sedang berinteraksi. Jadi itu metode yang dilakukan dalam riset ini.
Okay, so the home and community are important places for children and their play. Children and their language and practices and their play practices, it's sort of about messing about with play. It's not just sort of straightforward, but they're always messing about with their play. Where the real work is given, they do it sometimes in imaginative ways, which we're going to see in some of the video clips that I am showing. And it's important that through their play, children are supported to learn language. And sometimes they're learning more than one language. They might be learning 2 languages and becoming bilingual, or they might be learning 3 or more languages. So children's play in this project was about intergenerational family practices, where it wasn't just the mother and the child, but sometimes it was the grandmother and sometimes the great-grandmother. Sometimes we had 4 generations involved.
Ini menarik sekali karena bagaimana young children, yaitu anak-anak di usia dini itu, mereka menggunakan bermain untuk mengasosiasi language untuk pemeralaan bahasa mereka. Jadi tidak ada it's messing about, jadi tidak linear about where the real word is, your meaning to informal, imaginative, recreational, interesting. Jadi ketika anak itu memperoleh itu bahasa tidak dengan structure yang seperti kita di sekolah gitu, tapi melalui cara-cara yang imajinatif di real konteks. Terus kemudian untuk itu ada juga resourcesnya itu berbagai macam, ya. Jadi kuncinya itu bukan cuma bahasa, tapi children's well-being, terus kemudian identitas mereka, terus kemudian agensi dan kapasitas untuk berteman. Jadi pemeralaan bahasa itu banyak aspeknya, bukan hanya dari kata-kata itu sendiri. Children's play in this project is set against changing ideas about intergenerational family practice. Jadi children's play di bagaimana anak itu bermain di dalam proyek ini ingin is set against changing ideas, untuk melihat perbedaan ideas atau misalnya pendapat atau konsep yang sudah ada sebelumnya, bagaimana bahasa itu diturunkan dari neneknya ke mungkin ke ibunya, terus kemudian ke cucunya, terus nanti ada lagi cicitnya. Jadi ini semua intergenerational family practices yang tidak linear gitu, because it's imaginative dan dinamis.
Okay, so now we're going to look at some video clips of intergenerational family practices and children playing. So the first family has an Italian background. They're an Australian family, but they originally came from Italy. The great-grandparents came from Italy. And the great-grandparents and the grandparents and the mother have all decided that they want the children to learn Italian as their first language, and then they will learn English later on. So this family, we're going to look at a clip of Rina and Sarah and a little 18-month-old Nina playing in the backyard with Lego.
Ya. Kita akan melihat bagaimana keluarga dari 4 generasi ini berinteraksi dan bagaimana pemeran dosa itu didapat dari 4 generasi ini. Jadi Tina itu generasi pertama, Rina generasi kedua, Sarah dan Daniela, dan kemudian yang terakhir itu Nina dan Maya. Ya, jadi the grandmother wants them to speak Italian.
All of the generations.
Ya, jadi semuanya pengen mereka bisa Itali dulu, baru bahasa Inggris gitu. Seperti itu. Ya. Sekarang kita lihat bagaimana mereka berinteraksi.
So this is Rena on the top, Sarah on the bottom, and me interviewed. That is the grandmother, and this is her daughter. Yes.
English language through the informal play and creating that love for something. So when people ask, especially how overseas, what can we buy Nina, I will ask for Italian books. It's been a high priority. So having the Italian language and Spanish, both Nina, so books have been a huge part of her, exposure to language, as well as song. Yeah, I've got a couple of Spotify playlists with different songs from, from my childhood. There's a list of all the old cartoons that we used to watch in Italy, and they all have songs that go with them. Then I've got songs that my cousins that have young children in Italy have recommended. So, that's been really cool as well. Source different things, also from other family members. Yeah.
So Sarah was talking to her mother, who was up in the top corner, Rena, and Sarah was talking about how she, when her family back in Italy asked, what would you like for your young child who's 18 months old? She says, I'd like some Italian books. So can you share with me some Italian books? Sarah also, do you have Spotify in Indonesia? Yes, so Sarah makes a Spotify playlist of Italian songs that she can sing with Nina, her young child, as well. So she uses different ways to collect other language materials that she can use with Nina to teach her Italian. Sarah's husband is American and speaks Spanish. So Nina, who we're going to see in the next clip, is being raised with Italian as her first language, Spanish as her second language through her father, and then English when she's out in the community in Australia.
So Tara ketika pergi ke Italia, dia menggunakan berbagai macam media untuk bisa mengajarkan kepada anaknya, termasuk Spotify juga. Nah, di keluarga Sarah ini menarik karena ada 3 bahasa. Jadi karena suaminya itu orang Amerika yang bisa berbahasa Spanyol, jadi pertama ada bahasa Italia, terus kedua Spanyol yang diharapkan mereka bisa, terus yang ketiga baru bahasa Inggris.
So next we're going to watch Sarah and Rena and Nina, who's 18 months old, playing in the backyard with some Lego. And all the attention of the grandmother and mother is on this young child. They watch them with their gesture. Rena flicks the hair of the young child at one point to say, "I'm here and I'm watching you play." And they talk in Italian. And they sometimes Nina will ask a question and they will respond and repeat the question and maybe elaborate on it.
Jadi ini interaksi yang ada di taman antara Nina dan Sarah, dan bagaimana mereka berinteraksi ketika menggunakan bahasa itu, juga dengan menggunakan bahasa tubuh seperti misalnya memegang rambutnya Nina sambil menanyakan apa yang dia mainkan, seperti itu. Jadi kita lihat interaksinya di taman ini.
Okay, have you got the next slide, please?
Sulla moto non piace ed è un uomo con una persona che va sulla moto e c'ha il casco. Vediamo se si leva il casco. Oh, cosa c'ha? No. Interessante. È stata allo zoo ieri, vero? Guarda che c'ha qui, nonna. Cosa hai visto allo zoo ieri? La foca? E hai visto che nuotavano? Oh, God! Sono giochini. Sì, è un giochino. La moto, qui non piace perché non piace, non ti piace l'uomo col casco? Ah, tu vuoi mettere il poliziotto? Cos'è questo? Questo è un postino? Ah, un postino, chissà. Vuoi mettere sulla moto? Non piace. Cosa non ti piace, Nina? La moto, non ti piace la moto? Ok. Poi non ti mettere il ghiaccio. Giochino. Sì, c'è qualcuno che sta in gergo. Anch'io lo sei. No, non lo so dove non c'è. Sì, è un collo alto. Ci sono altri bimbi dentro lì? Una giraffa. Un tigrotto. Un tigrotto. E un altro.
So that was an example of the play that we filmed of the families. We had 6 families in all. One family had English only as their family language, whereas the other families had different degrees of other languages as well. This family were raising their child multilingual with Italian, Spanish and English, and at home the grandmother and the mother only spoke Italian with the child. So even though she was growing up in Australia in an English-speaking environment, she was just learning Italian and she hadn't been to an early childhood setting as yet, an educational setting. So she, you can see how Nina is understanding what her parent, her mother and grandmother are saying. She's starting to speak herself. Sometimes she's asking questions about the Lego. Sometimes she's describing what's happening. The grandmother and mother are explaining what they're doing and setting up the play.
Jadi ada di riset ini ada 6 keluarga, satu keluarga menggunakan semua bahasa Inggris, tapi ini adalah satu keluarga di mana ada 3 bahasa yang digunakan, Spanyol, bahasa Inggris dan bahasa Italia. Tapi kalau di rumah ini neneknya sama ibunya itu pakai bahasa Italia saja dengan anaknya, only Italian for Nina, ya. Dan bisa dilihat bahwa Nina itu berinteraksi dan bisa mengerti apa yang dimaksud, bahkan juga menanyakan kepada mamanya atau sama neneknya. Gitu.
And so for our research purposes, we got the video transcript. We transcribed what was happening into English so we could understand. And we didn't only transcribe the language, but we also noted down all the gestures to see how the mother was and grandmother were communicating with Nina and how she was communicating with them.
Setelah video ini difilmkan, ditranskrip, dan bukan hanya mentranslate ke bahasa Inggris saja, tapi juga melihat bagaimana interaksi bahasa tubuh atau gesture itu dipakai untuk menggunakan bahasa kepada Nina yang cucunya itu. Jadi semuanya ditranslate, using gestures as well, translated as well.
Yes. So we call it doing a micro-analysis of the video clip. Even though we had 30 minutes of video clip, we might do a micro, which was bilingual, Swedish-English.
Di dalam keluarga ini suaminya dari Susi ini berbicara Swedia dan juga Susi pernah berada di Swedia dan juga menggunakan bahasa Swedia ketika bekerja.
Okay, so next clip is Susie with Emily, and we see a little bit of them going through Emily's book from childcare, and Susie's talking about the different how she teaches Emily and how Emily learns languages.
Languages are Swedish?
She's learning English in Australia, but we will see a little clip of them singing a song in Swedish after this.
Ya, jadi kita akan melihat bagaimana Susi dan Emily berinteraksi dengan di childcare dan mereka akan menggunakan bahasa Inggris, juga ada sedikit bahasa Swedia.
Okay, so Susie first of all talks about toys which have been passed down that she used to have as a child and now Emily plays with.
This is interesting. Jadi ini permainannya ini Susi ini memberikan kepada Emily itu buku yang dia punya kepada Emily. Jadi pass down itu diberikan. Jadi punya dia diberikan kepada Emily jadi untuk belajar.
We did have some Lego that was passed on, but Emily has a lot of Lego and Duplo anyway, so they were Andrews. But not really. A lot of I do a lot of singing with Emily, and sort of musical playing with Emily as well. But that's just something I think I've learned more from teaching degree and things like that. I think it's really allowed me to think about what activities she wants to do and sort of work from her interests around those activities and just go with what she's interested in, but also looking at points where we can sort of sometimes engage in, I guess, intentional teaching, or even sometimes I will use songs, games for transitions. I sometimes have a little bit of, what's the word? I sometimes think I'm this fluid identity of being a teacher and a mother at the same time because the skill set becomes the same.
So Susie was talking about how she was an early childhood teacher, she was a kindergarten teacher, and that a lot of the teaching practices she used as a teacher, she now uses as a mother with Emily.
Jadi karena pernah menjadi guru TK, nah ini yang dia pakai di kelasnya dikasih ke anaknya dan melihat bagaimana anaknya tertarik dengan kegiatan-kegiatan yang dulu pernah dia lakukan ketika menjadi guru TK. Jadi dia mengeksplor apa yang anaknya suka.
Okay, so the next video clip, actually it will probably just be listening because often the film doesn't come through, is Emily and Susie sing a song about a snail in Swedish, and if we listen we can hear Emily singing and Susie helping Emily to remember the words.
Ya, kita akan mendengarkan bagaimana mereka bernyanyi bersama dengan bahasa Swedia dan Susi akan mengoreksi sedikit ke Emily tentang lagu yang mereka nyanyikan.
So we can hear how Susie helped Em sing that song in Swedish. Sometimes Emily didn't know all the words, so Susie supported her by singing along with her and scaffolding her singing of the song.
Ya. Jadi Susi ikut menyanyi bersama dengan anaknya untuk membantu anaknya menyanyikan lagu itu.
Now Emily goes to a childcare in Melbourne in Australia. And she doesn't want to speak Swedish anymore. She wants to use English, but there's many Chinese children at the childcare, and she wants to learn Mandarin because she wants to play with the Chinese children. So even though she's had Swedish and she's got English, she's interested in learning languages. And so now she wants to learn Mandarin so she can play with the Chinese children.
Ya, sekarang Emily pergi ke childcare dan ketika di childcare dia punya banyak teman-teman yang dari keturunan Cina dan mereka berbahasa Cina. Jadi di rumah udah bahasa Swedia sama Inggris. Nah sekarang Emily karena lingkungannya itu teman-temannya berbahasa Cina, Emily pengen belajar bahasa Cina.
Thank you. Okay, so the next family. This family is Ange is the mother, Louis is a 6-year-old. And he has a lot of interactions with his grandparents, Pete and Mark, and we can see them playing a game here. So during COVID, Pete and Mark used to meet Louis and Ange at the park and play a lot of games. So Louis grew up speaking English, but Ange, his mother, really wanted him to learn another language. So now he's going to a bilingual French-English school in Melbourne, a primary school, and Ange tries to use as much French as she can at home with him.
Ya, ini satu keluarga, neneknya Mark sama Peter, kemudian mamanya Ange, dan anaknya itu Louis 6 tahun. Mereka berbahasa Inggris, tapi Ange mau Louis itu juga berbahasa Perancis.
Okay, so we'll listen to Ange, the mother now, talking about how she uses different words in French to encourage Louis to learn French as his additional language.
Ya, nah kita akan mendengarkan bagaimana Ange membantu Louis untuk belajar bahasa Perancis.
Often when we're in the car, he comes out with it. He'd be like, "Oh, Mama, what's your blue car?" And then we play a game with him. How many cars can you count that are red? And he'll be like, "Well, okay, so six." And then this morning I said, "Okay, I've waited a little time." He said, "Oh, I'll take you." And I started from that. This it, and then he starts calling out after me. Says, can't off the please. So he does every now and then break into it. And Mum, for some reason, Mum always, when Mum sees him and says goodbye, Mum's always like, "Au revoir." And so Louis started, saying that, "Au revoir, à bientôt, comment ça va?"
So Ange is explaining that even though it's at school where Louis learns French the most, at home she's still using numbers with him, like 1, 2, 3, which is French, 1, 2, 3. She's also using colours with him, like rouge for red and bleu for blue. And the grandmother and Ange also use greetings with Louis, like bonjour and au revoir, to encourage him to learn his French.
Ya, jadi Ange itu mengencourage Louis untuk memakai bahasa yang dia pelajari, bahasa Prancis yang dia pelajari di sekolah, dengan di rumah, dengan menanyakan misalnya ada berapa, terus mereka Louis harus jawabnya dalam bahasa Prancis. Begitu juga dengan warna. Terus kemudian kalau misalnya kakek neneknya datang, dia akan menyapa juga dengan bahasa Prancis.
And it's not formal learning, but they do it in their everyday practice.
Ya, bukan formal tapi ini everyday practice, jadi praktis sehari-hari.
Okay. Now the next family is very interesting. It's Miss Rini Susanti and her daughter Gina. And Rini came to Australia to do her PhD about 4 years ago with her daughter Gina. And Gina didn't have any English when she came to Australia. And so Gina went to school in Australia and she had no English. So it was very interesting to talk to Gina about how she learned English. And she used to go to school and she'd take lollies to encourage the children to become her friends so they would teach her English.
Ini menarik karena Rini itu mahasiswa PhD di Australia, dan ketika dia bawa anaknya Gina itu belum bisa bahasa Inggris, tapi Gina itu kadang-kadang bawa lollis untuk teman-temannya, jadi bisa berinteraksi dengan temannya untuk bicara bahasa Inggris dengan Gina.
So in this clip, Rini is very good with video and with photography, and she has taught Gina how to use video cameras and how to use photography. And during the COVID lockdown, Gina had her own YouTube channel, and she would do activities for children, film herself doing activities for children. She would speak in English and tell them how to make things out of clay and how to cook.
Jadi selama COVID, akhirnya Rini mengajari Gina tentang fotografi, tentang bagaimana menggunakan video. Akhirnya Gina punya akun YouTube sendiri, dan kemudian dia di akun YouTube-nya itu dia mengenalkan bagaimana dia bermain dan menggunakan bahasa.
So in this clip, Gina is with her friend, and Rini is in the background. We can't see her, but Rini is helping set up the camera so Gina and her friend can zoom with Gina's cousin in Indonesia, in Palembang, and so they can play together.
Jadi ini Gina sama temannya itu bermain, terus juga zoom sama temannya yang lain, tapi Rini nggak ada di sini. Rini itu yang memfilmkan. Jadi bagaimana dia bermain sama temannya, terus sama sepupunya yang ada di zoom.
And if we listen carefully, we can hear a little bit of Bahasa and some English, and mainly English.
Ada yang masuk nggak?
So Rini has just set up the camera so Gina and her friend can zoom with the cousin.
Ya, jadi Rini yang memfilmkan, terus kemudian Gina bermain dengan sepupunya ada di zoom. Jadi bermain Karena online ya, virtual. Jadi ada yang offline, ada yang online.
And Rini speaks in Indonesian, in Bahasa, because she's still encouraging Gina to use her Bahasa, but Gina now, living in Australia, wants to mainly use English.
Ya, Rini pengen kalau anaknya itu tidak melupakan bahasa Indonesia, jadi dia menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Tapi karena Gina berada dalam lingkungan bahasa Inggris, dia maunya pakai bahasa Inggris.
Okay, now we'll watch another video clip of Gina and her friend.
Jadi lagi ngapain? That's what I'm trying to say.
See her friend on Zoom on the computer, laptop. So even though we cannot see Rini, the mother, in this video clip, we can see how she has supported her daughter to maintain her Bahasa Indonesian by helping her Zoom with her cousin back in Palembang.
Jadi Rini tidak ingin Gina melupakan bahasanya, makanya dia ingin Gina juga berinteraksi dengan sepupunya yang ada di Palembang melalui Zoom. Jadi mereka sebenarnya main bertiga, 1, 2 itu sama temannya, tapi yang 1 di laptop.
Okay. We might go to the next one now, thank you. So, the importance of parents as play partners with their children. And we've gone back to the Indonesian early childhood curriculum. And why are parents important? Because they're the first and foremost educators for children. They're the first teachers for children. Children spend a lot of time at home, and sometimes when we're in schools we forget how much time children spend at home and how it is important for them to, how it is important for us to find out a little bit about what they're doing at home and in the community. We need to make sure that our schools and our kindergartens are in harmony with the home. We need to have equal partnerships between early childhood education and parents so that the child's development and learning is optimal. Parents, as we can see through the video clips, can support their children's learning and development, especially the learning of languages. And parents are potential education partners. So sometimes we can ask parents to come into our early childhood settings or into our primary schools to help and with the languages that they can use. Maybe they have special skills or interests or hobbies which they can share with the children, and they can use multiple languages with them.
Jadi ini menggambarkan betapa pentingnya orang tua, karena orang tua adalah yang pertama dan paling penting, pendidik yang paling penting, karena anak-anak menghabiskan waktu lebih banyak di rumah. Jadi kita ingin memastikan bahwa perkembangan anak di usia dini itu harmoni antara sekolah dan di rumah. Jadi harus ada equal partnership dari pendidikan usia dini dan orang tua di rumah yang nantinya akan sangat beneficial, sangat menguntungkan untuk perkembangan anak itu sendiri. Jadi ini peran orang tua untuk mensupport children's development ini sangat penting karena banyak learning resources di rumah yang bisa membantu anak untuk perkembangannya.
So, in conclusion, multilingual language development is complex and varied. Sometimes children are using more than one language at the same time. Sometimes they're using it in different settings and for different purposes. Just like we had you do the concept map at the beginning of all the places that you use different languages in, children also use different languages for different purposes, with different people and in different places.
Jadi perkembangan dari multilingual language, penggunaan berbagai bahasa itu sangat kompleks dan bervariasi. Jadi kita bisa dilihat dari di video tadi, dan mereka menggunakan permainan untuk mensupport young children in language learning, dan ini interaksinya juga kompleks dan kemudian unik dan nggak bisa disamain mungkin dari satu keluarga dengan keluarga yang lain. Bagaimana mereka menggunakan bahasa dan membuat anak mereka itu bisa memperoleh berbagai macam bahasa dalam perkembangannya.
So, what are the implications for practice? Sharing information on reports of children's learning and their development with parents is really important so that we can have ongoing learning together in partnerships with parents and caregivers. We need to have opportunities to communicate with parents as teachers. How can we set up opportunities where we can either communicate through social media, through face-to-face conversations, by asking our parents into our early childhood settings or into our schools. Having active involvement of parents also in our schools and in our early childhood settings, and asking them to come in with their skills and their resources, so that there's continuity of learning, of education between the home and the school.
Jadi ini implikasi dari hasil riset ini adalah pentingnya untuk men-share informasi tentang perkembangan anak kepada orang tua dan memastikan ada ongoing learning di rumah, dan juga menyediakan forum untuk terus berkomunikasi dengan orang tua. Dan ini perlu digarisbawahi bahwa active involvement orang tua sangat penting untuk berperan aktif dalam memberikan support kepada pembelajaran anak itu. Jadi parents to share their skill in order to ensure. Jadi parents itu akan menggunakan skill yang dia punya untuk memastikan ada kesinambungan dari educational value, nilai-nilai dari pendidikan di pendidikan usia dini dan di rumah. Jadi itu saling sinkronisasi, karena seperti yang kita lihat tadi, orang tua juga they have their own learning resources which are unique, yes, so they are very valuable. Yeah.
And intergenerational family practices, so for children to be able to play with their parents as well as their grandparents and sometimes their great-grandparents, in the case of the Italian family, is really important, because all those family members are teachers in the child's life. So through our project, we're hoping to give early childhood teachers and lecturers greater insight to what happens in the home as far as learning and development goes through play practices, and how families can be the first teachers of languages, and showing the importance of it's really important to value families and children's learning that takes place in the home.
Jadi pembelajaran yang terjadi di rumah itu sangat penting bagi perkembangan dari anak usia dini, karena setiap members of the family itu berkontribusi dan merupakan learning resource bagi anak itu sendiri. Jadi ya, itu pentingnya interaksi dan kontinuitas dari pembelajaran dengan orang tua dan member of the family di rumah. Jadi pentingnya keluarga.
Okay, so we have developed a set of resources for teachers from our study, and it's available on the Victorian Association of TESOL website, and there's the link. I forgot to put the UR code. but you can access some resources. Rini and Gina talking about how they play and use languages in the home. There's some video clips about that. There's some video clip about the Italian family, and then there's a third video clip about all the families in the study.
Jadi ini adalah sumber dari riset yang Dr. Annie Carey lakukan. Jadi everybody can access. Ini bisa diakses di sini dan juga video-videonya, dan juga ini bisa menjadi pelajaran bagi dosen atau peneliti atau siapapun yang tertarik dengan pendidikan anak usia dini.
Okay, so we'll finish now, and we've got a little clip of Gina, and Gina wanted to learn Arabic so she could say her prayers. So she decided to learn Arabic through YouTube, and she began to memorize the Quran and learn Arabic through watching YouTube clips. So here we have Gina telling us a little bit about how she's learned Arabic and saying her prayers.
Gina ingin belajar bagaimana berdoa, dan dia belajarnya melalui YouTube. Ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
So we can see how Gina, just like all of you, in the first activity you did, uses a range of languages for different purposes. She's memorizing the Quran and learning Arabic to say her prayers. She's using Bahasa Indonesian with her cousin back in Palembang, and with her friends in Australia she's speaking English.
Seperti yang kalian gambar di diagram itu, Gina juga menggunakan berbagai macam bahasa di berbagai macam konteks. Contohnya ketika dia menggunakan bahasa Indonesia dengan sepupunya yang ada di Palembang, terus kemudian dia berusaha untuk belajar bahasa Arab dari YouTube untuk berdoa, dan kemudian interaksi dengan temannya dengan bahasa Inggris. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
Thank you for being a very good audience.
Thank you, Dr. your enlightening presentation. We will now open the floor for questions from our audience. If you have a question for Dr. Carey, please raise your hand and we will pass the microphone to you. Please mention your name and program study you're from before the questions. Yeah. Microphone? Pak Hayun.
Baik, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Mrs.
Explain, define the concept of ongoing learning at home and how to implement it at home, and then how it is implemented in Australia. Can you give insight about that?
Okay, I think the Rena and Sarah, her daughter, the Italian family, talked a lot about that concept of ongoing learning through play, through having a range of resources available that they can use in Italian, because that's the language they're raising Nina with, by using reading books, by singing songs, having a Spotify playlist. Susie, the mother who had spent time in Sweden, she talked about how she's a teacher at home as well as a mother. And during transition times, it might be routine time between going from breakfast to mealtime to other activities. She might sing songs or she might do other things in language to help Emily learn language and to develop not only English but some Swedish as well.
Konsep dari ongoing learning itu bisa diberikan contoh dari keluarga-keluarga yang ada di video. Contohnya keluarga yang dari Italia itu, mereka menggunakan permainan, menggunakan playlist di Spotify dengan berbagai macam resources yang ada di rumah. Jadi dilihat apa, mungkin ditunjuk pakai bahasa Italia gitu. Terus kemudian nyanyi pakai bahasa Italia. Yang kedua dari yang keluarga yang tadi, yang mamanya itu juga dia juga guru TK. Jadi dia pakai resources yang dia punya untuk ke anaknya. Jadi itu bagaimana pengimplementasian ongoing learning di rumah. Pak Hayun nanya tentang implementasi di Australia juga ya. He asked how it is implemented in Australia, this concept.
The concept, I think it depends on the families, because different families do it in different ways. Different families are using different languages in the home. As I said, 1 in 4 Australian families have language backgrounds other than English, so they're using other languages in the home beside English. So many children in Australia, just like in Indonesia, are growing up bilingual or multilingual. And hopefully we encourage partnerships between families and between parents, especially in early childhood settings, educational settings, that there are strong partnerships and relationships with parents. Parents are always seen as the first teachers, and it's very important that early childhood educators develop a very good rapport or very good relationship with parents.
Jadi pengimplementasian di keluarga di Australia itu beda-beda, karena keluarga di Australia itu backgroundnya beda-beda, dari negara yang beda-beda, bahasanya juga beda-beda gitu. Tapi yang paling digarisbawahi adalah pentingnya hubungan yang harmonis dengan orang tua di especially yang dengan early childhood setting itu, yang dengan sekolah dan orang tua, karena orang tua adalah pendidik pertama dan utama.
And I think it's also important to acknowledge that families do it in different ways. For example, for Rini and Gina, their religious practices are very important, and that was introducing Arabic to Gina, and Gina really wanted to learn Arabic so she could say her prayers.
Jadi implementasi satu keluarga dengan keluarga yang lain juga dalam segi pendengaran bahasa juga beda-beda. Contohnya dengan keluarga Indonesia di mana seperti yang kita tahu religius dan paling penting itu bisa sholat. Jadi itu penekanan untuk bisa bahasa Arabnya itu penting sekali. Jadi itu memang berbeda antara satu keluarga dan keluarga lainnya. Yes. Is that clear? Does that your answer question, Pak Hayun?
Is clear.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pak Hayun. Yes, the other questions? Ya, Ibu Dia.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pipit and Mom Anne. Sorry, my English is not quite good, but I try to ask you with English. From your research that you described, I saw that 4 languages here, which the first one is Italy, with the kids 1.5 old, and then Swedish 4 years old, French 6 years, and then Indonesia. From the research, how old the best to learn the second language? Because I have 2 cases of my close friends that she left her kids at home with the second language by TV, and then they have difficulties to understand about Indonesian language. So, how is that the second language distract the competency of children in first language? Thank you.
Thank you, that's a very important question. And research shows that children can learn more than one language at once. For example, Nina now, the Italian little girl, is 4 years old and she's very competent with speaking Italian, Spanish and English. Them learn the second language by having development in the home language. They are learning how to learn a language, and being able to know how to learn a language helps them learn an additional language. They have knowledge about and ideas about how to learn a language, and it's their parents and grandparents who are helping them to learn that language and showing them how they can learn the language as well. So I think we just have to give children time to develop and learn different languages.
So we can say that we have to stand too close with the kids when she start studies the second language. So we have to decide her.
When they're learning a second language, it's very important to keep learning the first language at the same time, not to just drop it and then decide to learn a second language, but to keep all the languages going at once. Does that make sense?
Oke, so jadi berdasarkan riset itu anak itu bisa menguasai berbagai macam bahasa. Yang paling penting adalah waktu. Jadi ketika belajar bahasa kedua, waktu untuk belajar bahasa pertama juga tidak dilupakan. Jadi bahkan ketika kita mengajarkan bahasa pertama dengan baik, itu akan menjadi dasar yang kuat untuk mereka belajar bahasa-bahasa selanjutnya.
And also, through the play, we can see that children are learning languages meaningfully. It's not just through rote learning, but it's through they want to communicate with the adults that they're playing with. They're enjoying learning a language. It's meaningful to them. It's purposeful.
Jadi belajar bahasa dengan bermain seperti yang dicontohkan di video-video tadi itu sangat meaningful karena real konteks, komunikasinya juga real konteks, dan mereka juga sangat menikmati pembelajaran bahasa itu, berbeda yang tentunya dengan pembelajaran bahasa di setting yang lain. Does that answer the question?
Okay, that's clear. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ibu Dia. Yes. Next questions, please. Any other question? Yes. Over there. Yeah.
Hello, Miss. My name is Bonita Namira. I'm a student right now in my 7th semester in the English education major. My question is, so in my childhood I was also taught English at a very young age, and I found that one of my friends also have the same experience as me, like when they are studying with their parents would implement English, usually with Indonesian as well. But the difference is, my friend ended up forgetting everything. He doesn't remember what happened because he was a child still. So I was wondering if you know what happened in that development, like what could go wrong, what could possibly go wrong with his development in learning English since the young age.
Oh, thank you for the question. It's very interesting, but I think I would have to find out more about the context as to how he was learning English, whether he kept learning English with his parents or whether it suddenly stopped.
So when I was telling him about my experience, I told him that my parents teach me English by like songs, like earlier, and also with like games as well. And since my mom worked at a foreign company, she also speaks with me in English. And then he said, oh, that happened to me too as a child. And then later on, I got more education in like a private academy. If I remember correctly, it was EF. And then I remember he said that he didn't do the same thing as I did. He just kind of stopped there.
Yeah, so maybe because he just stopped. But hopefully his English will come back to him if he has the opportunity to practice his English and be motivated to learn his English again. I think it's really interesting that your parents use songs with you, because songs, they're playful, but they're also a very good way of learning a language, because they help you give you the rhythm of the language, help with the pronunciation and the rhythm.
Interesting. Jadi Namira punya kasus di mana dia sama temannya itu sama-sama diajarin bahasa Inggris ketika masih kecil, tapi sekarang Namira masih pakai bahasa Inggris, namanya enggak gitu ya. Kenapa nyanyi gitu? Terus kemudian Dr. Kerry menjelaskan mungkin bisa dikasih latar belakang lebih jelas. Terus Namira bilang Namira ikut IF. Namira terus kemudian ikut kegiatan-kegiatan yang menggunakan bahasa Inggris, dan juga majornya juga Inggris gitu. Jadi that explains. Nah, makanya kemudian Dr. Kerry mengatakan bahwa konteks ini penting bagi pembelajaran bahasa. Contohnya itu pembelajaran bahasa dengan menggunakan lagu, songs itu, karena itu sangat menyenangkan dan juga bisa membuat anak itu bisa lebih pay attention atau mengerti tentang pronunciation, pengucapan dari bahasa itu dengan cara yang menyenangkan. Yeah, thank you.
And also something we haven't talked a lot about is this idea of plurilingualism. So using plurilingual strategies where we're using more than one language at once. Sometimes when I'm listening to Dr. Cooper, I can hear you saying some English words in amongst all the Bahasa. And so that's using plurilingual strategies. To help us get our message across, we use more than one language. And in days gone by, I would say that was a bad thing. We should just have one language in the classroom. but now we're saying it's okay to be using other languages as well to help get our message across to help with understanding.
Yeah, this is interesting. Jadi kalian juga bisa menggunakan pluralism. Contohnya Dr. Carey sendiri sekarang ketika lagi audiensi ini, kemudian saya mentranslate ke dalam bahasa Indonesia dan Dr. Carey picks up the language yang saya gunakan. Oh, jadi itu maksudnya ketika Bapak tuh punya Mister, ketika bilang terima kasih itu thank you. Jadi ada yang bilang bahasa satu-satu aja, tapi sebenarnya ketika ada dua bahasa itu kita juga bisa menganalisa bahasa itu sendiri dan kita bisa memperoleh bahasa. Seperti kalian mungkin lihat subtitle gitu ya. Oh, jadi ini tuh nebak gitu. Ini artinya ini, apalagi itu diulang-ulang gitu. Jadi Dr. Carey di sini, you know Indonesian as well ya. Dr. Carey, by picking up the language I use a little. Okay, that's what is called pluralism. Any others? Question? Yeah, Rihan.
Thank you for the chance. So, in your research in this end, you say the role of the family is crucial into the a child learn in English or in language. But I here stand for a future teacher. I hopefully. So, how the teacher take a part to the cycle of someone learn language, because especially as an English teacher, the goals is to the goals of English teacher is want to see their students to speak fluent in English, or at least be confident speaking English. So how the teacher take a part to this cycle to teach an English with family, like a peers, family and teacher, how could be? That's it.
Rihan, that's a very good question. Thank you. Another study that I've done with some other colleagues from Monash University, Associate Professor Marianne Turner and Dr. Katrina Tua, we worked with primary school teachers and lower secondary school teachers, and these teachers were teaching children who had just arrived in Australia English, and so we wanted to help them understand a little bit about the languages that children had already before they came to school. So we helped them make digital bilingual books. Say that first.
Oke, jadi Ria menanyakan itu Ria menegaskan, oh jadi orang tua itu penting sekali, keluarga itu penting sekali dari untuk perkembangan bahasa. Terus apa yang bisa saya lakukan sebagai guru bahasa Inggris supaya ini tetap continue seperti itu dan mendapatkan hasil yang maksimal. Dr. Carey menyatakan ada salah satu studi yang dia lakukan juga, di mana ini studinya adalah partisipan dari anak-anak yang baru datang ke Australia. Jadi anak-anak yang datang ke Australia itu mereka diajarkan dengan bilingual books ya, jadi buku dengan dua bahasa.
And as part of creating those bilingual digital books, the children went home and talked to their parents, because sometimes they didn't know words or they didn't know concepts in their home language, or they knew them how to speak them but they didn't know how to write them. So, or sometimes the parents knew how to speak them but didn't know how to write in there, because maybe their home language had a different script. So the children and the parents, or the brothers and sisters, or cousins, or aunts, or uncles, work together on these bilingual digital books.
Jadi buku bilingual ini dibawa ke rumah, terus orang tuanya, terus kemudian adik-adiknya, kakak-kakaknya, jadi bisa berkontribusi terhadap pembelajaran dari anak itu sendiri.
So that was one way of helping bringing parents into the classroom, or families into the classroom, by sending work home with the children that was meaningful for the parents, that the parents could help the children with.
Jadi itu dengan bagaimana keluarga bisa berkontribusi juga dengan membawa buku atau misalnya pekerjaan yang mereka bisa konsultasikan atau kerjakan bersama-sama dengan anggota keluarga yang lainnya.
Thank you. So the teacher work together with the family, pair by pairs, to succeed of child learning and language. I think.
Yes. And so the children, the students would write in their home language as well as in English these books. So they were helping the parents also to learn a little bit of English by sharing these books with the families.
Wonderful answer. Thank you, Ms. Anne and Ms. Vidit.
Yes, thank you. Next question. The lady over there. Yang sebelah sana. Ya.
So first of all, this discussion is very interesting, and I want to ask from what has been explained. Are there any factor that can influence a child language development apart from family or environment factor? Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's a very interesting question. And I think there's lots of things in the community that can help children learn languages. Listening to the music on the TV or on the radio or on social media, and listening to the different languages being spoken. In Australia on TV, we have a station called SBS where there is television shows in different languages. I think just by children being in the community, going shopping in the supermarket, and there's a lot of products on the shelves, and sometimes they're in more than one language, they're not just in English. So looking around with what we call environmental text, street signs, sometimes just walking past shops, especially restaurants. There might be an Indonesian restaurant which has writing in Bahasa as well as in English. So it depends on the community that the family are growing up in, but there's often lots of written language and language to hear that is more than just English and other languages as well.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Ya, let me explain a little bit. Jadi ditanyakan aspek apa sih yang mempengaruhi pengeluaran bahasa selain orang tua dan komunitas, dan menyatakan media seperti video, terus kemudian musik, terus kemudian lingkungan juga, misalnya ke supermarket, terus kemudian lihat arah jalan, tanda-tanda jalan gitu, pakai jalan itu juga bisa mempengaruhi anak untuk memperoleh bahasa selain orang tua dan komunitas, media dan lingkungan. Yeah, next question. Any others? Okay, thank you very much. They might is there any?
Very interesting question. I had to think a lot about the answers.
Okay. That might be the last question. Thank you, Dr. Kerry, for your thorough and insightful responses. We appreciate your expertise and the enlightening discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our session with Dr. M. Kerry. Please join me in expressing our gratitude to Dr. Kerry for sharing her expertise in this important topic. Please give Dr. Kerry a big round of applause. I give back to the MC.
Could I do one thing before?
Okay, yes.
I have a gift for the Dean. from Monash University.
Oh, okay.
We would like to thank you for inviting me to Jakarta and just a small gift of appreciation for our future collaboration with the University. Thank you. And we hope that this collaboration will grow.
Kaminya belakang lagi. Apa?
Enggak, thank you very much.
Kaminya ikut di belakang.
Thank you. I feel very honored.
Lagi. Udah.
The next session is photo session. Please move forward, all participants and speakers, to take the photo together. Ayo kita foto.
Bisa di belakang, tapi nggak mungkin bisa sampai di depan. Kecuali kalian mau speak up.
Apa?
Kalau mau speak up, lihat kamera.
Coba deh.
Emang jauh.
Ya udah pakai HP aja lah, kelihatan aja. Ya kalau misalnya dari jauh, kayak jauh juga, no? Ngerti gak sih?
Kami menjauh, kami apa kalian suffix menjauh biar semuanya dapat. Terus kenapa kami mikir kalau kami menjauh orangnya nggak kelihatan? Kan kami justru ngincer orang yang kelihatan.
Iya, tapi kan dengan jauh.
Please move forward for all the participants so we can take a photo together.
Kan kelihatan tuh.
Sudah selesai. Final ya? Saya tuh. Freestyle. Oke, lagi. Mantap.
Now for the students, please come forward and take a photo together.
Coba yang ini yang tahu orang tahu berapa ini? Berapa ini? Dosen.
Ini udah lama di sana PhD.
Mungkin bisa dibagi lagi ya, sebelah kanan, pas sisi kiri depan ya. Dibagi lagi, biar dari atas bagi lagi.
Mana nih? Ini di sini, di ini. Ini Unieversity. Saya pikir aku baru dikenalin tadi. Dari apa kantor urusan jadi ada kerjasama. Astagfirullah. Is it? Gak apa. Nggak tahu. Nanti cut ya. Nanti cut ya. Nanti cut ya. Enggak, mending di sini. Nanti di cut ya. Nanti di-cut ya? Di-cut ya?
Masak pehan lah.
Dipotong ya, soalnya banyak pembicaraan. Itu apa personal?
Masuk itu private juga aku belum tahu.
Enggak, dari yang walaupun misalnya upload dipotong ya?
Oh, yang mana?
Ada tadi besar zoom banget terus kita ngobrolnya yang macam-macam. Nggak tahu.
Thank you very much to all participants and speakers for attending and participating in this program, and also appreciate the committee for organizing such an amazing event. Hopefully, the participants who have attended can get positive value from our event and have a good event in the future.
5, 4, 3,